Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's story. Have you ever wondered what it feels like to stand between the warmth of the present and the shadows of the past? What would you choose? Peace or passion? Safety or love? When Alex brought Tuna and her baby to meet his mother, everything seemed calm. Yet beneath that calm hid questions that could change their lives forever. Why did his mother's eyes linger so long on Tuna? And what secret decision would Alex and his mother make for her future? Stay with us until the end, because every silence, every glance, every unspoken word holds a truth waiting to be revealed. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Help us reach 10,000 followers so together we can continue to uncover stories filled with love, choices, and the quiet storms of the heart. The morning light draped itself over the fields like a thin veil of gold, brushing across the leaves heavy with dew. Workers moved through the melon garden, their voices mingling with the rustle of vines and the hum of distant machines from the wood workshop. It was a place where survival was carved not in words, but in sweat, where every fruit cut from the branch, every beam of bamboo carried the weight of days ahead. The air smelled of earth and resin, mingling with the metallic clang of tools. A man bent to inspect a melon, turning it in his palm. "This one is too big, but not yet ripe," he murmured, as if speaking to himself. Another laughed softly, counting the cuts before his basket would be full. In the workshop nearby, Alex's voice rose above the drone of saws and grinding machines, discussing bamboo, timber, and the precision of orders that had to be met. The workers listened, nodding, their hands moving quickly as if time itself pressed against them. The conversations carried the rhythm of necessity, about shipments missed and regained, about weather that could ruin or save a harvest, about the sheer labor of keeping pace with demand. Yet, beneath the practical tones lingered something softer, the quiet pride of those who knew they were shaping more than just goods. They were shaping lives, sustaining families, threading hope into every bundle of wood and basket of fruit. In the middle of this, Alex's eyes often drifted beyond the machines, past the gardens, as though searching for something more personal than contracts or profits. His work was steady, his voice firm, but behind it lay an unspoken pull, a longing that had little to do with business and everything to do with the silence of a woman and child waiting at the edge of his thoughts. The sun had begun its slow descent, pouring a honeyed light across the fields when Alex finally left the workshop behind. Dust clung to his sleeves, the scent of wood and oil following him as he made his way toward the small farm. His pace was steady, yet his heart carried a rhythm far more urgent, as though each step pushed him closer to something he had been quietly waiting for. At the farm, Tuna sat beneath the shade of a tree, her hands moving gently over the child she cradled. The baby's small breaths seemed to hush the world around them, turning the noise of animals and rustling leaves into a backdrop of calm. She did not notice Alex at first, absorbed in the softness of the infant's face, until his voice, low, careful, broke through. "Tuna," he called softly, almost as if afraid the name itself might disturb the peace. She looked up, startled, then softened when she saw him. "Alex, what are you doing here?" He smiled, but it was the kind of smile that carried weight. "I finished work early, and I missed you. I thought, maybe you and the baby could come with me to see my mother. She's been waiting to meet you both." Her eyes flickered with hesitation, a pause that stretched longer than words. The farm was her shield, the baby her world. To step beyond it was to open herself to something uncertain, something fragile. Yet Alex's gaze held hers with a quiet steadiness, as if promising safety in his silence. She nodded slowly, her voice barely above a whisper. "Let me prepare the baby's things." And in that small consent the air shifted, soft, fragile, carrying the weight of beginnings. The road stretched out like a ribbon of fading light, bordered by fields that breathed with the scent of soil and ripening fruit. Alex walked beside Tuna, his arms cradling the baby with a tenderness that seemed almost foreign to his strong, work-worn hands. The child stirred once, then settled again, lulled by the rhythm of his steps. Tuna followed closely, a bundle of clothes and small necessities pressed against her chest, her eyes lingering on Alex in moments when he wasn't looking. They passed by the small grocery store where Alex paused. "Let me get a few things for the house," he said. She shook her head quickly. "No, just bringing us is already enough." Her words were soft, almost embarrassed, but he only smiled and stepped inside briefly, returning with a small bag that swung lightly in his free hand. The silence between them was not awkward but heavy with unspoken thoughts. For Alex, it was the quiet hope of showing his mother the family he imagined, even if it was not yet named. For Tuna, it was the quiet fear of stepping too deeply into a life that might not fully be hers. She glanced at him, watching the way he held the child, firm yet gentle, as though the baby was already a part of him. The sky shifted into deeper shades of amber, and with each step toward Alex's home, Tuna felt the invisible line between the safety of her farm and the uncertainty of what awaited her. Still, she walked on, drawn by a pull she could not name, her heart beating to the same rhythm as the quiet hum of the evening. The doorway opened to the scent of simmering broth and warm rice, the kind of fragrance that wrapped itself around memories. Alex's mother stood waiting, her hands still dusted with flour, her eyes widening at the sight before her. For a moment, her face seemed to soften years away, lit with a joy too long held quiet. "Tuna," she greeted, her voice trembling between surprise and affection. Her gaze fell upon the baby in Alex's arms, and in an instant, her hands reached forward, gathering the child with a tenderness that spoke more than any word could. "So handsome, so good," she murmured, rocking gently as if the child belonged to her heart from the very beginning. They sat together at the table, dishes steaming between them, each bowl a reflection of care. The mother fussed, urging them to eat, slipping small pieces of meat onto Tuna's plate, whispering encouragement as though she feared her guest might fade if not properly nourished. Tuna, at first hesitant, gradually allowed herself to be folded into the rhythm of this household, into the laughter, into the soft scolding of Alex for working too much, into the warmth that filled every pause. Yet beneath the ease, there was a subtle current. The mother's eyes lingered on her son longer than the food, her voice dropping as she mused, "I wonder when Alex will finally give me a grandchild of his own." The words hung between them, gentle yet sharp, a reminder of hopes unspoken. Tuna lowered her gaze, her fingers tightening on the edge of her bowl. Alex shifted slightly, his hand brushing hers beneath the table. A quiet reassurance, a promise he had not yet dared to speak aloud. When the meal was finished and the clatter of dishes softened into silence, the evening light settled through the windows in muted gold. The baby slept soundly in the next room, leaving a hush that seemed to invite words heavier than everyday talk. Alex's mother sat quietly, her hands folded in her lap, her gaze shifting between her son and the doorway where Tu Diep had disappeared to check on the child. "Alex," she began, her tone low but steady, "a woman raising a baby alone, it is not easy. She needs more than visits and kind words. She needs a place, a roof that she can truly call her own." Her voice lingered, weighted with both care and a subtle urgency. Alex looked at her, his jaw tightening, not in resistance but in thought. The idea had lived in his heart already, a quiet seed waiting for light. He nodded slowly. "I've thought of it too. A house, for her and the baby. Not just shelter, but a beginning." The mother's eyes softened, filled with relief. She reached across the table, her fingers brushing his. "Then let us do it together. Let this house be not just bricks and wood, but proof that she belongs." Tu Diep reappeared, her steps hesitant as though she had sensed the weight of their voices. They turned to her, not with grand declarations but with the gentleness of inclusion. Alex spoke carefully, his words both tender and firm. "We want to build a home for you and the baby, a place of your own." For a moment, she stood frozen, her breath caught, her heart unsure whether to accept such kindness or fear the cost of it. Her eyes shimmered with both gratitude and unease, the silence between them holding more drama than any storm could. Night fell gently, cloaking the house in a veil of quiet. The sounds of the village, distant voices, the occasional bark of a dog, faded into the steady hum of crickets. Inside, a single lamp flickered, painting soft halos across the wooden walls. The baby lay asleep in the next room, her breaths even, her tiny hands curled as though clutching dreams too fragile to name. Tu Diep sat by the window, her gaze fixed on the darkness beyond, where the outline of trees bent under the moonlight. Her thoughts moved in silence, tangled between gratitude and doubt. A house, such a promise carried warmth, yet also a weight she wasn't sure her heart could hold. To accept was to step further into a world that was not hers to begin with, a world stitched by Alex's resolve and his mother's longing. Alex stood a few steps away, watching her without speaking. The lamplight softened his features, revealing both determination and fear. He wanted to reach for her, to reassure her, but something in her stillness stopped him. He remembered his mother's words, how they pressed on him like a quiet command. Let her belong. Their eyes met in the hush of the room. No words passed, yet the exchange was heavier than any confession. In her eyes, he saw hesitation, a longing for safety shadowed by the ache of uncertainty. In his, she glimpsed a man torn between offering love and fearing it might be too much. The night seemed to hold its breath around them, as if even the air understood that sometimes the greatest storms come not in shouts or quarrels, but in silence, when two hearts hover at the edge of choosing, neither stepping forward nor turning away. Dawn crept in quietly, brushing pale light across the quiet house. The baby stirred first, her faint cries threading through the silence, pulling Tu Diep from uneasy dreams. She rose, her movements gentle, carrying the child back into her arms, as though the act itself steadied her. From the kitchen came the soft clatter of pots, Alex's mother already awake, humming a tune too old to name. Life continued, steady, unbroken, as if the night silence had never existed. Yet beneath the ordinary rhythm lay something unspoken. Alex lingered near the doorway, watching as Tu soothed the baby, her face illuminated by the morning's pale glow. He longed to close the distance, to assure her that the promise of a new home was not an obligation but a gift freely given. But he said nothing, choosing instead to let the stillness stretch, hoping she would hear the sincerity in his quiet presence. His mother entered, her hands folded, her eyes lingering on the child with a tenderness that carried both joy and longing. She did not press further, did not repeat the hopes she had voiced the night before. Instead, she smiled, offering fruit and warm tea, as if to remind them that love is often built not by declarations, but by simple acts of care repeated every day. Tuna's heart ached in its indecision. She felt the weight of kindness pressing against her fears, the pull of belonging against the instinct to guard her fragile peace. As the sun climbed, painting gold over the rooftops, she wondered if a home was measured by walls of wood and stone, or by the courage to open her heart. And perhaps that was the quiet lesson the morning whispered, that the truest choices are rarely made in grand moments, but in silences where the soul learns to listen.
Alex sau một thời gian làm việc vất vả đã tìm tới trang trại nơi Tử Na chăm con, và anh ngỏ ý muốn đưa mẹ con cô vô thăm mình. Trên đường, hình ảnh Alex bóng bế đứa bé đầy dịu nhẹ khiến Tử Na vừa cảm động vừa bối rối. Khi về tới nhà, mẹ Alex vui mừng chào đón, chuẩn bị bữa cơm đơn giản nhưng ấm áp. Trong bữa ăn, bà không giấu được niềm hạnh phúc, khuyên Tử Na thường xuyên mang cháu đến chơi, đồng thời nhắc khéo Alex về tương lai. Sau đó hai mẹ con bàn bạc quyết định xây một ngôi nhà mới cho hai mẹ con Tử Na. Khoảnh khắc khiến cô vô cùng biết ơn vừa ngập ngừng, đứng giữa sự lựa chọn của trái tim bình yên hiện tại hay cho một tương lai chưa rõ.